Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading. You can see that right there on your screen if you're watching. You're tuned into our podcast, The Secret War on Cash. I have with me my co-host, Chris Agelastos, who is also going to be discussing with all of us, I should say, the Secret War on Cash. And there is quite a war going on, a literal war. We have a literal war on our hands. Not that we necessarily want that or predicted that, it just kind of happened. So getting right into it here, Chris, we've entered into, we're comfortably into the month of February 2025. And we had been talking about really for quite some time now, $3,000 an ounce gold. And we are really right on the cusp of that. Gold, as the article or line here says, gold surges past 2,900 to a new record amid tariff threats. And, I can't say this comes as any shock or surprise. And for those of you who've been tuned into this podcast, which if you're not subscribed, please do so. If you've been tuned into this podcast really since we began, we're getting close to a couple of years ago now. Yeah. We've been watching gold prices at less than $2,000 an ounce and watching them kind of just march forward here very steadily, very, very consistently. And so let's talk about this, Chris. When we started off the year at roughly 2,700 an ounce gold, and now we're cresting over 2,900, nearing that $3,000 prediction that so many people had made that 3,000 price point a prediction for the entire year of 2025. And yet here we are, not even 2 months into 2025, and we're knocking on the door of that 3,000. So what's going on? What's causing this spike?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Right now, obviously, as anybody tuning into the news, I'm sure, has heard a lot of talk about tariffs, threats of tariffs, and some tariffs actually going into effect. We just had a 10% tariff go into effect on a fair amount of Chinese goods, and 25% tariff on imports of steel and aluminum. So all of these things, affect international economies. And that can cause the prices to jump, as we've seen here. UBS, Goldman, Citibank, they're all saying now $3,000 plus, which we've talked about a little bit over the last a couple of months here. And the thing about gold too, I think it can catch people off guard because when it moves, it generally moves pretty quickly. So you may have months in a row where it's up $10 and down $10, but then when it takes off, it may only take a couple of days for it to shoot another $100 and then hold there. So it's one of those things where, people who try to time the market often miss out. I tell people, look, get in and plan on holding for the long term. And that way you can take advantage of all of these increases. But none of this seems to be slowing down. I mean, I think with, U.S. policy as it relates to tariffs and different imports, certainly some of the sanctions that we've been applying to other nations, they want a little diversity and, to distance themselves from the dollar. So we should continue to see this. It would not surprise me if in a week or so we're talking about gold going over 3,000 an ounce. I mean, it can happen that quickly.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, in fact, we'll get into that in a moment here, but, year to date already, gold's up 10%. And the more it moves up, the greater the percentages. If it moves up another $100 an ounce, it's a smaller percentage than when it went from 2,900 to 3,000.
Yeah.
But that heels of it in 2024, it already going up what they refer to here in this article, a meteoric 27%. So it's looking like it's just been on this, it's basically on this treadmill. It's on this trend that it just continues to climb and climb and climb. And looking at here at the next article that CC is going to put up, we have in gold, the headline here, gold sets 12 record highs in early 2025. 12 record highs.
Yeah.
In its 2025 surge, rises nearly 11%. What's driving the rally? Boy, I speak today. The bottom line is, in this, I'll let you get into what is driving the rally, but I've got a few thoughts or comments of my own. But what is happening here is, I know you talk about tariffs, but what else do we have taking place that's causing this to happen? Because the tariffs in and of themselves, to have 11 new highs reached, that's something that seems a little bit single faceted, meaning the tariffs to cause that to happen.
Yeah. Well, there's also been a lot of central bank purchases, especially from China, but also India and Poland have been purchasing record amounts again to kind of diversify their reserves away from the U.S. dollar. We've got a lot of concerns over inflation still, and of course the trade wars, which you already mentioned. But people see gold as the safest investment out there. And so when you have a lot of, let's call it chaos. I think whether you're a Trump supporter or not, you could say there's been a lot of chaos, and he's certainly stirring things up, and that causes shifts in the markets. We're seeing a lot of risk in stocks. Everybody's waiting for a big reset in the stock market. You got the central banks shifting money away from the dollar. People are looking for some stability, and inflation has really not been under control. I know a lot in the government or the Federal Reserve would want us to think that it is, but inflation has been creeping back up there again. And you've got also physical demand. It just touches on this a little bit in this article, but I thought it was interesting that the New York Federal Reserve holds the largest depository of gold in the world, allegedly. Number two is London. Well, New York is now requesting a lot of gold be shipped over from London, and because of some of these potential tariffs, causing tariffs even on gold that's imported into the country. And so what used to be a process that took a couple of days is now taking a month. And that's the other thing people don't realize, about physical gold. It's an actual physical asset that has to move, and that takes time and resources. So you just have all of these. I say the perfect storm a lot, but that's because that's what we have. We have so many different things pushing metal prices. And I think consumers, looking for some added security and stability.
Oh, 100%. Both these articles really hit that, to make that point, really hits home where, this is a hedge, a diversification play, people getting into gold. They're doing it for stability. They're doing it because of concerns. They're doing it to kind of help mitigate the risk that they have in their financial portfolio. But the added benefit has been, it's performing, it's outperforming like for almost every asset class out there. And, what's also interesting, this has all been happening is it gets into this second article here, talks about how the Asian central banks, they put it, take the wheel in the gold reserves race. And my point being is that Asian central banks purchased a ton of tonnage of gold in 2024. And they kind of had pulled back a little bit, but now this has all been happening without them, and now they've put their hat in the ring again. So this is why, for those of you tuning in, if you're not currently invested in precious metals and gold and silver in your financial portfolio or your retirement plan, and you really need to be, number one, and you read these articles, they'll tell you the same. And if you need to understand it better, the best thing you could do is contact us at Swiss America. We have free information. We have representatives who would be more than happy to answer your questions, because it's not just an opportunity to take advantage of some good profitability, some good growth, as they're talking about here, but it's also an opportunity to get yourself that financial diversification and that hedge that you need. You can get that information by calling us at 1-800-289-2646, or you can visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. All this information actually is in the description here on the podcast. And if you'd like to actually as well, you can text us, as Chris always says, because I know a lot of people do prefer or enjoy the texting process. So, Chris, thank you for all that. We'll continue to watch this. Fasten your seatbelt. Looks like gold's going for another ride. Thanks for those of you tuning in.
Yep. Take care.